This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. CNN Center right now is
World Trade Center. We understand that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that. We don't know if it was a commercial
which is in the Wall Street area of New York City. You are looking at live pictures. Apparently, a plane has crashed into one of the upper floors of the World Trade Center.
Well, Leon, I can just tell you that you went.
When the first tower fell, I think is when I started to cry, because that's unimaginable. You know, you prepare for everything. You know, we have a lot of training in the emergency service unit just to respond to every type of emergency. That was something you just could not imagine. You couldn't imagine.
And I saw the inmates standing on the deck of the female locker room, staring, into the skyline. So I asked them, what are you all looking at? And they said a plane just hit the World Trade Center.
We noticed that there was a smoke coming from the top of one of the towers. And once we finished the run, we kind of ran inside into the, to see what was going on. So we turned on one of the televisions in the roll call area, and we were notified through the news that a plane had crashed into one of the towers.
I was in Brooklyn at the morning of September 11th. Pretty much was doing the detail at the time when we were pretty much aware of the first plane attack. We got a call when the second one, which is then our beepers went off to tell us to respond back to the compound to pretty much go down to ground zero for the search, rescue, and recovery operations.
I was actually in the equipment area, what you call E1 Bay, and I physically saw with my two eyes the second plane crashing into the second tower. I knew then that we were under attack.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
That's the southern tower you're talking
Exactly.
about.
The second building that we witnessed the airplane enter had been, the top half had been fully involved in flame. It just collapsed. There is panic on the streets. Thousands of people running up Church Street.
When we got downtown, everything was black and white. Every single thing was clay gray. If you can imagine driving down the street, and when I say everything, the trees, the papers that were in the trees, every vehicle, the buildings, the streets, there was not 1 ounce of color because of all the ash and the soot that had come from both towers.
It was just a shock and awe. And where do we start? It was taking the needle out of a haystack on where do we start? What kind of equipment we're going to need. I mean, it was such a magnitude. I mean, it was something that you'd only think you see in a movie set.
We were placed in groups with certain captains to go and start looking for people that were alive. And we're walking by the streets, and the streets were completely blocked off. You could not pass through the streets. You know, if you have like one way going up and then you have a cross street, everything was blocked off with rubble from the buildings. And I just couldn't believe, at that point I think it hit me, the magnitude of it, because I'm in it now and I'm looking around, and I just couldn't believe the destruction of what took place.
I was part of one of the advanced teams with Captain Mike Serra at the time, and 2 other officers and myself. We were the lead team to be able to establish communications at Stuyvesant High School with the NYPD Emergency Service Unit to begin our joint efforts.
Communication was very paramount in setting up everything as far as the logistics in that area. Transportation also, because they were the ones who were shuttling people in and out from the island, who we had people, God bless them, because they were coming from doing an 8 or 16-hour tour to help down at the morgue.
When you started to see the remains of people that had been crushed or some were burned, it was hard. But you thought to yourself that this is somebody's family member, this is someone's father, someone's son, someone's mom, someone's daughter. You know, and then it really started to hit home, you know, it really started to hit home.
There was a lot of things that you saw that, from what you saw, decomposed bodies, DNA, you know, you were wearing it on your uniform. I mean, whatever that loved one that you were dealing with, it was on you.
You know, and people had wedding bands on and things like that, and you felt, I think, a duty to try to give them some type of dignity, you know, and do what you had to do, because, you know, this could have been you, this could have been, you know, anybody that you know. So it was difficult, but, you know, after a while, you just did what you had to do. And I mean, all of us, you know, we cried, you know, all the time, because it was hard, you know, but we had a job to do. I don't think anybody down there that was at ground zero, that was there, was not affected, you know, in a profound way.
We saw something every day, you know. I remember one day, we were on the pile and there was a void, and me being of small stature, I was volunteered to go into that void, and I put on my gear and I went in, and on that particular day I found several firefighters and 2 Port Authority cops in that void, and I just backed out. And one thing I would say is that we all had respect for each other. So if we found a firefighter, we would come out and get a hold of a firefighter and say, listen, we found some of your guys in that void there. So get your guys together and let's go get them out. Let's go get them. And when we would bring the bodies out, how we lined up and how we would put a flag over the bodies and bring them out, you know, that it showed a tribute to them and the way they died for our country, trying to save lives. And to me, that stays in my mind all the time.
Working down there was, it definitely made everyone in our unit closer.
Coming back in the evening on that long bus ride back to Rikers Island, you know, guys would talk, some guys would just listen, some guys would be sobbing, crying. Other guys go up to them, it's gonna be okay, we're here together. And that was very important.
Because we depended on one another, we depended on the captains. There were a lot of times when we were out and we had to rest because we know that at any given time, we could be called to a pile or called to just search buildings.
My heart goes to everybody that was down there, and still to this day, whoever's still around, well, God bless them for it. It was a challenge. It was well worth it at the end of the day, because I think we all have closure. We're able to talk about it 15 years later.
People would be lining in the streets and clapping for us. You know, strangers would come up, or volunteers would come up to us and, you know, give us hugs when we were down there. And it just, to me, brought the world a little closer. Definitely, New York, it brought people a little closer.
It saddens me and it hurts me every time when they speak about it. We're not even mentioned, like we were not even there. But I know, and my brothers and sisters that were there know that we were there and that we had a significant part in it. And in that I take solace, and to know that we know, and that is good enough for me.